So again, any comments, any questions that you have, you can put into the chat box. Because I've learned my lesson, I'm going to answer all the questions at the end. You can always pop them in there. I'll do my hardest not to read them on the spot, but any comments, whenever this little chat icon comes up, I will gladly address. So then today's agenda, we're going to talk about what communication is, how to properly convey what it is that you're trying to say using iMessages. We're going to learn how to listen. And then we're gonna hopefully give you a little bit more oomph into saying no, because I know saying no is very hard to do sometimes. And then we're gonna go ahead and review and close. And for us joining us just now, welcome. That little chat, aqua little GIF that you see at the end, at the bottom of your screen, that's gonna be whenever it's your turn to chime in and comment or answer the questions that I ask, all right? So my goal for today is for you to go through these objectives with me. So to understand the importance of sending clear and accurate messages. I also want for you to learn how to communicate feelings effectively, effectively being the key word, learn how to be a good listener and how to practice assertive communication skills. So that is what my goal is for you for this presentation. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my video off because I want all the Wi-Fi to go to my voice and for me not to cut out. So I will come back at the end for the questions to answer. But to get started, I'm gonna show us a cute little clip. So that was just a cute little introduction on how important it is to effectively communicate. So as little bunny did, he went and made sure that his communication is clear and concise and to the point, right? So we have to make time to be really clear. So if you ever look, and I'm sure you've been looking at a lot of these, any disinfectant spray, any Lysol wipes, any cleaning supply, could be even a shampoo bottle. If you look at the back and it says directions, they are very clear and precise. Now, they're probably not telling you at what degree to, or what angle to spray the spray or how to maneuver it, but they're trying to give you as clear directions as they can. So when you're communicating with someone, you want to make sure that you're doing the same. You know, communicating is an everyday behavior that we all take for granted. And if we don't choose our words well enough to get our message across accurately, this can hurt us. You want to make sure that you give step-by-step direction. Sometimes there's just way too many things going on in our head, but we've got to make sure that if this is a task that you are giving to someone, that you want to give them clear step-by-step direction. Using visual cues, you guys can't see me right now, but I am such a talker with my hands. So this sometimes lets you know that I'm engaged, I am listening to you, even sometimes nodding. Whenever we had classes, you know, person to person, when I would see someone nod, that would really let me know that they were engaging in the conversation, that they were listening. Describe what you are talking about in detail. In your head, it might make sense, but you have no idea what the other person is thinking or how they're kind of getting that information that you're giving them. So you want to make sure that you give as much clear detail as you can. You also want to ask for feedback. Once I tell you something, see if the message was understood correctly, right? So I can tell you, hey, the sky is blue, but you probably interpreted that the sky is orange. So you want to make sure that you're always on the same page when it comes to giving instructions or having a important conversation. All right, so effective. Effective is that successful or is successful in producing a desired result. So you want to make sure that what is coming out of your mouth is being clearly understood and the person can now act on what you just said, right? So communicating, right now we're having to jump online. And so if I were to give out, then you wouldn't get the message of this presentation, right? So communication is something that we have to make sure is spot on, that if there's any hesitancy, if you're not understanding, that you have the ability to say, hey, I'm really not understanding what you're saying. So that is the key to effective communication, is making sure that the exchanging of the information is understood by both parties. All right, so this is I love videos, and I know I shouldn't share many, but this is probably my last one. So let's see what this one is.
Excuse me? Hello? Hey! I'm a human being. If you don't want to help, at least say so.
Hello, I am deaf. I may have trouble comprehending you. Thank you for your consideration. Usually, I'd read your lips to understand you.
Oh.
If you like, you could let this convert your speech to text for me.
Okay. Could you tell me how to get there?
Want to try again?
Attention passengers, all is well. Thank you.
Low power shutting down.
Oh, yay!
Attention passengers, line 4 is delayed for 1 hour. Thank you.
All right, so with that video, why is it important for you to be good at communicating your feelings, your goals, and your decisions to other people? You know, we saw that she used really good visual cues and they were trying really hard to get on the same page. So in your chat, answer this question for me. Why is it important for you to be good at communicating your feelings, your goals, and your decisions to other people? I know it takes a moment to get adjusted. Someone said, so they can understand where you're coming from or what you want. Right, it can just be a simple request that you need, like, can you please move out of the way? Absolutely. You can't assume that others are on the same page, so clearly stating feelings, goals, etc. is important to avoid misunderstandings. Yes, misunderstandings are like the root of why everyone gets aggravated, so that we can achieve the goal, having the feeling heard in the decisions. Yes, people can help you. If you're verbal about it, people can help you. Conflict avoidance and clarity of thought, absolutely. So they can clearly know what you want. And with miscommunication can come frustration, absolutely. That is the root of most frustration, is you think you're getting your message across, but the person really isn't listening, or they're not interpreting, they're interpreting it their own way, not yours. Good, so those are great answers. So again, it can help you resolve problems and arguments. That is what communication is for. You can understand where other people are coming from. It helps you express your feelings more clearly. Sometimes when it comes to emotions and feelings, it's hard to put it into words, and sometimes word vomit can come out where you just say all these things that you're feeling, but you didn't really take time to process what it was that you wanted to say. So that is a common thing. And sometimes we just need to regroup our thoughts, or we need to have a journal and write down these emotion words so that you have a more clear, precise way of how you want to tell them. Getting your needs met. Again, if you're walking behind someone slow, or you need to they need to get out of your way, communicating. I mean, we communicate when we're in a car, right? You put your blinker on because you're letting someone know that you're coming onto their lane. What happens if they don't? Frustration, right? So there's always ways of communicating to get your needs met, and then help others understand your goals better. So you want people to help you reach your goals, right? And how are they going to help you if they don't know? So you saying, oh, by tomorrow, I want to, I don't know, eat better. I just say that because that's one of our examples, but someone can help you be accountable, like your partner. All right, so I think this is another chat icon. Yes, why is it that you might have a hard time telling someone if you are sad, or if you're feeling mad, disappointed, hurt, frustrated, or embarrassed? Because these are some tough things to talk about, but why is it so hard? Why do you hesitate when you feel this way to tell that person how you feel? Not trusting the person with your feelings. Yeah, you don't know what they're gonna do. What if you pour your heart and soul out and they just go and tell somebody else? So yes, absolutely, not trusting someone is very important. They don't understand or might react negatively. Yes, they might not understand the path that you're walking or the problem that you're facing. So you don't want to sit there and tell them about it. Because of past experience, someone else might have hurt you, and someone else might be the one that hurts you again. So yes, that trust issue. Sometimes you don't want to tell people you're true. You don't want to be vulnerable because you're afraid that they might judge you. And yes, makes you vulnerable to others. Absolutely. Sometimes our feelings, we have a hard time with them. So why would we tell someone else if we're not really sure what we're feeling either? So that vulnerability can, have that miscommunication. And then fear of being overboard and messing things up. Maybe if you throw in your 2 cents, maybe it can make the situation worse. You're just not sure. It just still puts you in that feeling of unease. Do I do it? Do I tell them? Do I not? So absolutely. And then someone else says it shows weakness. Sometimes it can. Sometimes maybe you don't come from a family that they don't talk about their emotions very well, and this is the sign of weakness, and you're not really sure what that means, but feelings are never a sign of weakness. I'll just put that out there. All right, so these are some of the common answers and that you guys said in the chat as well. Sometimes you're unsure of how the person will react. Maybe you're sad and the person doesn't know how to handle your sadness. You feel embarrassed. Maybe that is a really embarrassing story for you and you maybe don't want to relive it. You're afraid that they may not understand or empathize. Absolutely. And then worry that you may feel that you may make the situation worse. So these are all things that y'all said in the chat. So that's awesome. So communication, it's important that you remember that there's a different communication styles. We did not all grow up in the same household, right? We didn't learn things the same, right? Different households learned rules and learned how to communicate differently. So going back to that aspect of we come from different families and communities. So maybe in one family, they never really talked about how to handle conflict, right? They're mad and they don't talk to anyone about it. Maybe that's what's keeping them. Or maybe someone really is in tune with their emotions and they want to talk about it right then and there. So we have to have that compassion. We have to understand that just because you communicate this way doesn't mean that that person is going to communicate the same way that you do. New relationships bring old communication styles. So you might be embarking on a new job with all these awesome new coworkers, but maybe they work differently. Maybe the team dynamic is different. Maybe that work environment is not the same one as your last one. So we have to take all those things in. And then if we get angry in our response, others will be reluctant to interact with us. So because communication is a process, our every action, word, facial expression, gesture, or body posture, it really comes with our shared history and why it's important to others, why it's important to you. So if you're angry in your response, others will be reluctant to interact with us. If someone's angry, if someone comes in a bad mood, you probably like, you know what, they might need their time. So if we bring that baggage or a bad past interactions with new relationships, we feel guarded and we don't exchange the actual feelings that we want. Please clarify number 4. Right, so that's what I just said, that if we bring baggage from past bad interactions to our new relationships, we may be cynical, distrustful, and guarded in our exchange with others. Number 3, bringing new relationships with old communication styles. Maybe your past partner, the way that they handled conflict is they needed to cool off for 2 days before they talked about that topic again. So now you know that communication style and you bring it to your new relationship where maybe this partner is like, no, I want to talk about it right now. So we need to make sure that we talk about these things. Hey, how do you handle conflict? Hey, when something bad happens, how do you handle it? Making sure that you're on the same page and not bringing in the old stuff. Does that make sense, Eileen? Okay, awesome. All right, so iMessages. When I say iMessages to adolescents or children, they always say, yeah, like on your iPhone. No, iMessages are totally different. So usually when you're frustrated, this kind of goes back to that word vomit. Maybe you're a person that holds in all your emotions day by day. So something bad happens on Monday, it's okay, I'm gonna hold it in. Tuesday, something else happened, no need to talk about it. So if you do that every day, by Friday, you're going to explode, right? Even if it's minor things. So where iMessages come in is they help you get your point across in a more graceful manner that people will actually listen to. So when you're angry, you usually say, you are such a liar, you embarrassed me, how could you do that? You know, you. You know, it makes you feel like that person is the reason why you are so upset. That sounds familiar, right? We're so easy to deflect and say, no, you're the reason I'm mad. You're the reason that there's traffic. You're the reason that I'm late. That seems like something that we tend to do. And it's nature. It's okay. Sometimes we just don't feel like having that accountability on ourselves. So what you statements is what is opposite of I statements. So I statements is you putting those feelings back onto you. So saying, I feel betrayed when my confidences are broken, or it is hard for me. So it's starting off with I. You have that accountability on you by yourself, right? So I feel humiliated. I feel like you were not listening to me. Instead of saying, you never listened to me, you could say, I feel like you never listened to me, right? These statements are different, but they're really just making you the starter of the conversation. You saying, hey, like, I don't feel right when you do that. It's not combative, right? So again, you statements attack, they blame, they almost threaten people. If someone was to come up to you, just think about you. You're just walking down the street or you're trying to get to your car. Someone comes up to you and says, you suck at parking. What's the first thing that you're going to do? You're probably not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, you're right. You're probably going to be on your defense mode. And you're going to say, well, no, you suck at parking. I had to park like this because you parked like that, right? So you feel attacked. You're really quick to just get on defense mode. You don't sit there and actually listen to what's happening. So I statements are not threatening. They usually help promote to resolve the conflict faster. So I'll give you quick examples, and then you're going to practice how to turn these into I statements. So you never help me with anything. What do you think? Any of these? You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can turn these into I statements for me. So you never help me with anything. What can that turn into? Or stop yelling at me. How can you turn that into an I statement? Your idea is really stupid. How would you turn that into an I statement? Or you never listen to what I have to say. Okay, someone said, please talk calmly to me. You could say something along the lines like, I feel like you're tense. Can I help you with anything? I think you're not being calm. You know, we're trying to put that I in front of it so that the person doesn't feel attacked. Of course, a please will always help. Someone said, I feel my time is disrespected when someone is late. Yes, that's it. I feel like my time is disrespected. You're putting that accountability of the feeling on you, and then you present their action when someone is late. Someone else said, I feel like you don't help me much. Yes, instead of saying, you know, your idea is really stupid, you can say like, you know what, I feel like you don't help me, or let's brainstorm. I think your idea could be better. Yes, that still kind of might sound mean, but you're at least getting your point across. I think your idea could be better sounds so much better than your idea is really stupid, right? And it's kind of tough in some professional aspects when you really feel like the person's idea is just not really good, but you would never say, your idea is really stupid. I believe that you didn't clearly understand what I said. Absolutely. I think it would be a good idea if you came on time. Yes. I feel sad when I am the only one helping when people don't help me. Yes. I wish you would listen to me. Yes, these are all great. Wonderful. So here's some of the responses that we get. You never help me with anything. You could switch it up to an I statement and say, I feel stressed when I feel I don't get help with anything. Come back for more information, then we'll talk. Yes. Stop yelling at me. You could turn that as, I feel nervous when people yell. Your idea is really stupid. I believe if we work on this together, we can come up with a good solution. You never listen to what I have to say could change into, I feel disrespected when I feel people don't listen to what I have to say. Or then when people are late, you can say, I feel embarrassed when I show up late. Other people might not care, but you are at least putting it out there that it's not okay to always be late. Good job, guys. See, y'all are pros at I statements. All right, so let's turn some of these into I statements. Number 7 says, I can't believe you would do something like this. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Number 8 says, you never let me do anything fun. 9 says, you don't care about me at all. And then 10 says, you totally stabbed me in the back. There's an I missing. There's an I missing. In the back by spreading rumors about me. How would you turn these into I statements? I wish you pulled me aside privately so I could avoid embarrassment. Yes, that's wonderful. You get your point across. It lets the person know how you feel and what their action is that made you feel that way. It says, I feel embarrassed when you do these actions. Yes. This could be kind of weird, maybe with your partner, this seems so structured, but you really are trying to set the tone and have a meaningful conversation when you start with an I statement. I wish you could let me do fun things. Yes, I wish you would care about me. Absolutely. And then you might get a little bit of combat back. If you say, I wish you would care about me, and then your partner or who you're talking to says, well, I do care about you. They're at least listening and engaging to your first sentence, right? Because if you say you don't care about me at all, you at least are not starting off aggressively and then the other person comes aggressively. And so 2 aggressive people is not the way to solve a conflict. So you can always calmly remind him, I don't feel, or I wish that you would care about me. And I don't feel that you care about me when you do XYZ, when you don't do the dishes, when you don't call me, things like that. So you are really setting the tone for the kind of conversation you want to have when you start off with a nice statement. It says, I wish you didn't spread rumors about me. I feel betrayed. That's it. That's a wonderful way to have a meaningful conversation, is by starting off with how you feel and what they did to make you feel that way. Good job, guys. Oh, look, the little chat icon came up, but y'all already knew how to do it. All right, so listening. I am so pleased and happy that you guys are actually listening. If I wasn't in front of you, or if I was in front of you and you couldn't hear me, listening that's the main aspect that's missing. So when do we listen best? We believe that the message is somehow important or relevant to us. I'm going to take a second here to talk about multitasking. So sometimes we think that we're really good at doing 3 things at once, right? You're cooking, but you're also watching the news, and you're also over here watching the kids, making sure they don't, end up fighting. When you pay attention to just one thing and you're giving it all of your attention, that's when you're going to listen. So if you have the news on in the background, there's a huge chance that you're not listening to the news because you're too worried about, the right measurement in your recipe. So it is important that when someone is trying to have a conversation with you, that you tune everything off and that you listen to them, right? The speaker holds your attention throughout the whole thing. They are actually engaging you. They are telling you how they feel, because no one wants to sit there and have a conversation with someone that's on their phone, right? That is one of my biggest pet peeves, is I'm trying to tell you a conversation or tell you something and you're just on your phone. Now, some of us might do it by habit, just mindlessly scrolling through a phone, but you want to put the phone down and pay attention to something that someone is telling you. All right. So when we listen effectively, we try to understand what people are thinking and feeling from their perspective. Now, there might be times where your attention goes to a car passed by really fast, or your phone did give you an alert. But for the most part, you want to make sure that all of your attention is on the person in front of you, especially if it's a hard conversation to have. We not only hear the words, but we really are trying to understand what is really being said. Maybe you have no idea what this person is talking about, but you're actually trying to understand where they are coming from. So, chat time. How do you feel when you tell someone something and they just don't listen carefully, or they just look at you every once in a while from their screen? They're like, oh yeah, that sucks. Or how would you feel, or how would you want someone to listen to you? When you are telling someone about your feelings or a frustrating situation, how do you want your listener to react? How do you feel when they interrupt everything you're saying by giving an example from their own life or trying to change the subject? We feel like they don't care. Absolutely. We feel like that we're not worthy of their time. Yes, we want eye contact. We want to make sure that they're actually attentive. You feel angry when people are just sitting there like, yeah, whatever you say. With the last point where it says right there, how do you feel when they interrupt everything you say, by giving an example of their own life or trying to change the subject? It's kind of tricky because they technically are listening to you by what you said because it triggered something for them to respond, but essentially they're not really listening to you because they're worried about what they're gonna say, right? Kind of like upstaging you or saying, oh, well, now I'm thinking of my story. I'm not listening to what you did. And on top of that, I cut you off, right? So sometimes that can be very frustrating. Respectful of my feelings and listen first before speaking. Yes, just listening, guys, does great wonders. You know, you might have a friend that will talk your ear off, but you are essential for that friend because they just want someone to listen to them. Or you might be that person that you're like, you know what? I just want to vent about my day. I don't want advice. I just want to tell you how I cannot believe he had the audacity to cut me off in traffic, right? There's no conclusion or there's no resolution. You just want to be heard. This brings us to our next segment about saying no and meaning it. Now, no is a complete sentence. No does not mean that it has to be followed by a comma and then an excuse. Sometimes just no is all that needs to happen. So, can you give me any examples of situations in which this would be hard to do? Give me some examples of when it was a hard time for you to say no to someone. Or why do we sometimes have a hard time saying no? There's another error. But me telling you to tell someone no is not that easy. Why is it hard for you to say no? Yes, that is a time where it's hard to say no. Breaking up with someone because we love that person. Yes, that is a very, very tough situation and where you know the answer is no, but you love that person because you care. Yes, you care about what the person is asking. You care about the person's well-being, so you feel like you're compelled to say yes. If they use emotional manipulation tactics such as guilt or shame, there are people that will guilt you into doing things that you know you should have just said no to. Having to confirm bad news such as a job loss or a death of someone close to you. Yes, this is a very hard topic or discussion to have with someone. All right. Career. Yes, it is very hard in your professional work life if your boss tells you to do something and you just say no, that kind of doesn't fly. You know, that is probably when you do want to tell them why you can't do that. But sometimes saying no is just all that you need. Saying no to friends. Yes, how many times has a friend asked us to do something and you're just like, okay, fine, when you know that you don't have time or you know you had another commitment. So yes, that is an example of situations where it's hard to say no. Family. Yes, we feel obligated. We feel obligated, maybe not anymore, but my favorite example to give on this is when your child at 9 p.m. tells you that they have a project due tomorrow and they have no supplies, they need you to go to the store right now. And of course, you know, your parent instincts are going to kick in and you go to the store to get what they need. But that causes so much stress in you and the child. Now the child has to hurry up and do the project. So sometimes if we do not lay the law down, but if you don't say, hey, if you knew about this project at the beginning of when you came home, Why didn't you tell me there? We have to have these kind of conversations because kids will just be like, I don't know. I didn't know you wanted me to tell you that. So those are some situations that it's hard to say no to. All right, so I have a worksheet in front of me, but I decided to put it on our slideshow. Just take a quick minute to either pull up like a notes app on your phone or just like Post-it or a pen or pencil or something, because we're going to do a quick little worksheet. So, you know that sinking feeling when someone asks you to do something and your stomach lurches. You don't want to go along, but you can't come up with a good excuse to not do so. It's hard to say no. So I can't see because of my chat, sorry. How often something you caught in the I can't say no trap? All right, so we're going to read the following situations, and I want you to assess yourself from 1 to 5, right? So 1 being never, and then 5 being always. The first one says, your friend suggests that he will drive home after leaving the bar. You know you shouldn't allow him to drive because he has had too many drinks, but you get in the passenger seat anyway. Have you sometimes done it? Never? Absolutely not. And that doesn't matter. Just judge yourself on what you would say. The next one says, your decisions can be easily swayed by a strong argument from someone else pushing you in the opposite direction. So if you feel a certain way, but someone comes in and just gives you all this evidence and research, and now you're just being pushed against the direction you stood in. Does that happen never, or does that happen always? All right. You feel strongly about a political issue, but it is the opposite opinion your spouse holds. So you remain silent rather than getting into an argument. That whole saying, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, right? Sometimes, never. You start out saying no to something, but you get talked into doing it after a short time. So you know you really shouldn't go to happy hour because you had another voluntary obligation to do. But then they start to just say, oh, come on, it's just one. Do you sometimes do that, or do you never frequent? Some of you are saying that you would want to hear more facts. Absolutely. Sometimes you want to hear more of what they have to say to see if your opinion can get swayed. Yes. All right. So we're going to move on to the next questions. You're stressed out with too much to do and too little time, but you can't seem to say no when someone asks for a favor. Maybe your neighbor asks you to go pick up their dog from the groomer. You're like, yeah, sure, I'm already out. Does that sound like something you would say? Or you just firmly say, nope, can't do it. All right, someone says something really nasty about a person you like. You don't jump to the defense of the person being criticized because you are in the minority opinion. So let's say a group of your friends really just doesn't like this person, and you kind of do like this person, but because all of your friends are saying they don't like her, you just kind of don't jump in there. All right, some of you are saying seldom, good. So you would describe yourself as a passive person and then tend to never let others know your thoughts about certain issues. Seldom, never, okay. And then the last one says, someone is critical of something you do. You don't defend your actions by explaining your motives. Instead, you just accept the criticism. Do you say, no, stop being critical, or you just sit there, or you defend yourself? And you're right, sometimes it has a lot to do with the situation. Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not. All right, so when it comes to scoring, we are gonna look at, if you have 5 or near on almost all of them, you are less assertive and you tend to keep feelings and thoughts to yourself, right? So you're kind of more on the, all right, we disagreed, let's move on. So if you answered 5 or near 5, like I said, on most or all the questions, you were less assertive. Do your responses indicate an assertive communication style in which you hold back when you should probably speak up? Speaking up for yourself would probably benefit you. You are not doing anything wrong by standing up for yourself. So it's important to communicate assertively, especially when you feel like someone is doing you wrong, right? So speaking up and saying no is important. Sometimes it could depend, your life could depend on it. Like the first, excuse me, the first example that we gave of getting in a car with someone that's been drinking because they insist. Sometimes your life does depend on it. All right. So again, maybe you struggle with saying no. So how you can change your behavior is by evaluating your behavior and identity patterns. What patterns means is maybe you tend to say no to these people, but you say yes more to maybe your spouse or your kids. Select one pattern of behavior you would like to change. Look back at GOOP. So what GOOP means, it's something that we did in a previous presentation. It is goals, outcomes. Oh gosh, this is embarrassing that I wouldn't know this about my own company. But probability, I know, is the last one. Outcomes, maybe my coworkers will help me. Options, thank you. Yes, options. So goals, options, outcomes, and probability. Look at that. See how to sway the options of saying yes or no. Maybe you have a journal. Maybe you want to note how you feel and what those situations made you feel. So you can always revise your plan whenever you say no. How did it make you feel? Maybe you were a little too assertive. All right. So we're going to go quickly over this because I'm out of time. Who would have figured? But when Stacy assessed her response to the statements about assertiveness, she realized that she tended to say yes when someone asked her for a favor, no matter how busy or stressed out she was. Stacy decided she wanted to learn to say no when necessary. She set a goal of imagining certain situations that she had faced recently and how she would handle them more assertively. First, she reviewed 2 situations that happened before when she wished she had said no. Her sister asked her to babysit her 2 children at the last minute, and her coworker asked Stacy to stay late to help with an extra work assignment while Stacy was trying to finish up her own work. She wrote up her plan for what she would say and how she would explain her reasons for saying no to her sister and no to her coworker. The second week, when the coworker asked for Stacy to help with a work assignment, Stacy calmly said, "I'm sorry, but I will not be able to help you because I am completing my work and I have to do it before the end of the day." Her coworker decided to ask someone else, even though she had already tried to make Stacy feel guilty. But she stood her ground and she realized that the coworker will find a new way to meet her own needs that Stacy did not need to fix it for her. So sometimes we get put in those situations where you want to say yes, you really do, but the only thing for your sake and your sanity is to say no. Sometimes we have to assess, and sometimes we have to tell ourselves who we have to be a little bit more assertive with. All right, so realizing that when you start saying no to other people, they might get angry. They might, but again, their anger is not any of your concern. You've said no because of the reasons that you stated, and they have to respect that. They are used to you giving up on your boundaries and your needs to fix the problem. So with someone like a family member, it's easy for them to tug at your heart and say, "No, I really need you to do this," right? But if you set up boundaries, like if you needed me to do this, you should have told me earlier in the day. You're at least saying, this is what my requirements are for me to say yes. And then practice saying no to people and set boundaries. Boundaries are very, very important because if not, people will keep jumping over that fence or over that boundary. You have to make sure that they stand strong. All right, yay. So make sure that the proper steps in making yourself clear. You have to make sure that I statements make your points valid and effective. You have to learn how to stop talking and start listening. And then you want to practice saying no to people and set boundaries. It's funny, whoever Jake is, I am very aware of the cluster B personalities because I go to school for this. But yes, being aware of people that just love to talk about themselves, or being aware of people that just lie and just don't give you enough time. So that concludes our presentation. I went 5 minutes over. Thank you for hanging in there. If you have any questions or any comments about what I have said, you can feel free to email me at this email address, healtheducator@thewomensfund.org. If you would please do us a quick favor, take a picture of that QR code and do a really quick survey to make sure that we are doing our job effectively. We want to make sure that we hear your comments on how to make these presentations better. I'll leave this up for just one more minute before I go to the next slide. And then again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the chat and I'll answer them if you feel like staying after for a little bit. And then these are our upcoming events. Next week, we're going to talk about anxiety and mood disorders. Speaking of cluster B personality disorders, we're also going to talk about germs and then sleep hygiene. These are all trending, important topics. So we really hope that you tune in so you can learn more, so you can make yourself a better advocate for your health, so you can help the ones around you. I will go back in case you need to go to the survey. So again, if anyone else has any questions, I will stay around to answer them. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. And I will undo my video. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you learned something today. All right, here's the question. How to communicate if you are in a relationship where your partner is turning cold? If you're afraid of losing him, how do you address your feelings? So in our life, we'll probably have people that just are not talkative, that are very reserved, that would rather keep to themselves. If you're in a relationship with someone like that, I can understand how frustrating it is. You have to remind your partner that you're in this relationship as well and that your needs are not being met. So when you try to communicate with them, let them know, hey, are you okay? Is there something that we need to talk about? I feel neglected. I feel that we're not communicating anymore. Maybe your partner just doesn't even want to talk because they don't know how to express their emotions. So maybe trying to do journaling, writing down how you feel. Again, there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help. If you need a therapist, maybe that is what will help you and your partner try to communicate better. He used to be warm and he turned cold recently. Maybe something is stressing your partner out, right? Maybe something is going on that they just don't feel comfortable talking about. Maybe that is where a therapist can help, or maybe a family member. You know, maybe your partner just doesn't want to really talk about what's going on because they don't know how to put it in words. So maybe either writing it or saying, can we set up a time to talk about it? You know, there's no judgment. You just want to see how they're doing. He's seeking a therapist. That's wonderful. That's great. There's nothing wrong with seeking a therapist. They're just there to help you. All right. I think it is very important. This, Eileen, thank you for asking. Should you just give him space or not address? Should you not address your feelings? Your feelings are always valid. You should always address your feelings. Now, maybe write them down. Maybe just leave it for him and say, whenever you're ready to discuss this, we will. You can give him space, but you don't want your relationship to just turn into nothing and nothing but space. You want to make sure that your needs are being met and his needs are being met. If his needs are just space, well, your needs need to be met as well. So again, maybe suggesting a walk, or writing down his feelings, or some other form that's not just looking at each other and trying to have a hard conversation. Someone said my connection is unstable. Is there any way I can have access to this presentation? Yes, you can have access to this presentation. I will email it to you. And when I thank you for bringing that up, I will send out a reminder for the survey, and I will also make sure that you have access to this presentation. Now, we also put these presentations on our YouTube channel and then on our Facebook. So you can always access them through that channel. Does anyone else have any other questions? It's 2:55. All right, Eileen, I'm reading what you're saying. I feel he is selfish. He's nice to his friends and family. Maybe he does need more than space, right? Maybe he does feel like there's too much going on. I'm happy that you said earlier that he's seeking a therapist, because this is not something that you are bringing upon him. There's something in him that he's afraid of sharing, or he is keeping him from being a good partner. So keep going down that therapist track. That will definitely help you in communicating better. All right, so I see everyone's leaving. Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Andrea Watkins. I didn't really give an introduction to myself, so I'm very sorry. But I will be doing next week's presentation as well, the anxiety and mood disorder one. So again, thank you for tuning in. And no, thank you, Eileen. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.